What's going on, ladies and gents, boys and girls, guardians of all ages, Joker back again, once again, and today, people, today we are talking about what everybody on the internet wants me to talk about, and that is, of course, the sunsetting of Forsaken. Well, to be clear, it's not just the sunsetting of Forsaken, it's the sunsetting of a lot of things. The Tangled Shore, the Forsaken campaign, all of Year 4's seasonal content. Bungie is literally sunsetting the entirety of Aldrin/Crow's Fall from Grace and Redemption story. Hey, my Final Fantasy XIV players out there, imagine if, for the sake of argument, you couldn't take a new player and show them, I don't know, the entirety of Estien's story arc? I'm just saying Final Fantasy XIV recently had a boom of new players out of nowhere, specifically because of how new player friendly the entire experience is, and the sheer amount of content there is. Destiny 2's new player experience is a confused clusterfuck of, so what exactly is the story again? And really all you can do is tell new players to go watch a video online about it. When go watch a video online about it is the totality of your story for your MMORPG, you have fucked up. But hey, fucking details. Now, before we get into the bulk of the conversation, there's a little bit of an aside I want to go down. Why the actual fuck isn't Forsaken free now? You know, upon making this announcement, who the actual fuck at Bungie thought leaving Forsaken for sale in the store for the next few months was a good idea. Bungie is now selling a product they know will be discontinued shortly. That is fucked up. Because here's the thing, I don't give two shits or a fuck about what side of the great content vaulting debate you're on. Everybody should be able to at the very least, categorically agree having that content still for sale when you know you're going to be discontinuing it is wrong. But I digress. Now, when talking about the Destiny content vault, there are two signs that generally scream the loudest. The side that is against it based on the fundamental principle of ownership. I bought something, it's mine. Bungie should not be able to haphazardly just take it away because fuck you, that's why. Of course, the counter argument to that tends to be, well, it's old or it's bad, which is a hilarious backpedal in my mind because I was vilified for saying some of this content may not be the greatest thing ever shat out of a development studio. But I guess it does mean I was right. The other argument fanboys love to use is that you don't actually own Destiny, that you're paying for a license and basically just renting the game. That is a horrific oversimplification of an extremely complicated consumer rights issue that groups are still fighting about right now. We will address precedent more at the end of the video, but is this really the precedent you want to set, fanboys? Or is this a bad faith argument being made because people are more interested in the potential shiny stuff that they may or may not get in the future than the horrific ramifications of giving any game developer or publisher carte blanche to remove player paid for content on a whim? You know, tap dancing those consumer rights away with the promise of something new and shiny that, in this case, you don't actually know will be new or shiny. You've just been told you may get something new or shiny, or actually you'll get the opportunity to pay for something new and shiny. Maybe. Cucking out to a corporation for short-term gain is recklessly short-sighted. But those aren't the only arguments. People against the Destiny content vault can argue, as I just did, people have lost over $200 in value, if not more. And for what? To Bungie's own admission, all we've really gotten in the long term from the Destiny Content Vault is, and I quote, "The Destiny Content Vault has provided a great deal of technical breathing room that the team has dedicated to important improvements to the Destiny experience. Upgrades such as drastically reducing our patch response time, improving loading times, offering quicker access to UI, such as your inventory or map, and others linked directly to the opportunities the Destiny Content Vault created for the team." If that's your headline of a justification for removing $200 worth of value from people, make a new game. But on the flip side, as I stated earlier, one of the most common arguments you'll see for the Content Vault, as people will argue adamantly, well, the Content Vault doesn't matter because the content going into the Content Vault doesn't matter because it's all old or was bad. So we're not really losing anything. To which I find myself inclined to agree. Of course, not for the reasons that you think, oh viewer mine. No. I am not some delusional asshat who thinks myself so important that other people should lose content that they paid for and have it stripped away because I'm done with it. No, that content, as so aptly pointed out by the people for the Content Vault, was bad. But it was bad by design. What do I mean? There is a great video by Josh Strife Hayes called What is Parasitic Design that will go into the concept of what parasitic design is more than I will in this video. Link will be in the description below. But longtime viewers of the channel might note that I've actually been talking about parasitic design for years. What I called it was disposable game design. So what is parasitic game design? Well, as Magic the Gathering designer Mark Rosewood, who widely popularized the term, would put it, a parasitic mechanic is one that is only useful in the set it is in. A linear mechanic is one that encourages you to put other types of cards in the deck with it. Parasitic cards tend to be linear, but not all linear cards are parasitic. For example, Samurai Tribal cards were parasitic because it was the only set to ever have samurais, while Elf Tribal cards were not, as the game has lots of elves already. So basically, any mechanic or feature added that does not interact with the other core systems and only works when built around. While I'm not a Magic the Gathering player, you can see this design philosophy throughout all of Destiny. In fact, one could argue what we once thought was the core of Destiny, story, strikes, raids, and PvP, has largely been upended and replaced with parasitic, or as I've routinely called it, disposable game design. One of the key, I guess you would call it a feature, of parasitic game design is it can be removed from the game and nothing would change. You can't do that with PvP for as much as people want it to be removed. Or strikes. Or raids, at least as a concept. You can't even really do that with story missions. See the disjointed clusterfuck that is the new player Destiny 2 experience. Or lack thereof. But seasonal content can come and go and affect nothing. And that's because nothing in Destiny is built to last. It's built to be the flavor of the week. And this is a fundamental flaw with seasonal content. It always has been, it always will be. Because why would you build something as the foundation to last? Because why would you build something as your foundation, as a core pillar of your game, as something meant to last, when the very premise behind your content model is the ability to remove all of that content and not hurt the game? This is why, by design, most seasonal activities aren't really that great. It's one nondescript horde mode after another, and these horde modes aren't built to last for years, let alone the 3-month time periods they're relevant in. And while your experience may vary depending on the repetitiveness of the mode, the outcome is the same. These modes are designed to not be something that people miss when they're gone. When people who refer the vaulting of content go, "But Joker, when was the last time you played X, Y, or Z?" they're not making the point I think they're trying to make. They assume that because it's no longer played, that it's okay to vault, but never look further into the underlying reason as to why that content is no longer played. The reality is, Bungie has designed this content in such a way that it's always meant to be disposable. And as long as the end goal of any piece of content is to be removed from the game at some point, it will never have longevity. It's a little more than FOMO-riddled junk food. Bungie is being entirely honest and downright candid with us when they say they remove content because they don't want to continue designing around it. Parasitic game design is far easier for a developer to support and create. Look at Gambit. Gambit was meant to be a new pillar of Destiny, but ultimately it's a failed experiment that had multiple iterations and content removed, and now exists as this vestigial piece of content that Bungie occasionally remembers exists and throws a bone to. Gambit and Gambit Prime was really the last time Bungie tried to iterate on the core of what Destiny was as far as activities go, and it failed, due in large part to a lack of support and a terribly balanced meta. Everything since then has been disposable, and if it doesn't work out, it's irrelevant within 3 months and it's gone within a year. And as such, the reality of the situation is Bungie has no incentive to create new core content with any regularity, because disposable, parasitic, new shiny for the month content is just easier to make. Why would you ever create a new raid from the ground up, outside of a main expansion, when 1, you can just copy and paste one from Destiny 1, and 2, creating new locations, creating complex and interesting boss fights is a long, drawn-out, iterative process. I would not be surprised if it takes longer to create a brand new raid than it does to create every seasonal activity for an entire year. And I think that's the ultimate casualty of the current Destiny content model: creativity, longevity, sustainability. All of these things are sacrificed on the altar of cheap, disposable, FOMO-riddled, well, at least I have something to do, junk food. The last thing I want to hit off on is precedence. We have, over the last couple of decades, seen different studios try and copy Bungie, and that has led to a cavalcade of live service games, or Destiny clones, that are janky, unfinished, barren of content, games that would generously be called a beta upon release, only for these games to die off relatively quickly. How long until a developer says, well, the sequel or next iteration of my game is coming out, and Bungie has already normalized the removal of hundreds of dollars of game content to make way for their new content, to incentivize players to buy and play that new content? How long until that becomes the industry standard? Don't think it'll happen? I mean, Bungie's already doing it. They've wiped out over $200 of content. What makes you think that Activision or EA are not paying attention? It is a dangerous precedent. Allowing any developer or publisher to remove content people have paid for, carte blanche. It's supported now because people are too short-sighted to see the larger ramifications of this. This is not something you want to become industry standard, more so at the scale that Bungie is doing it. But hey, those are just my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. Remember to like, but only if you did. Subscribe for more. Feel free to donate to my Patreon if you're feeling particularly generous. But above all else, stay frosty.